All right. Well, hey, welcome everybody to our November 2019 Google Educator Group meeting for GEG Ohio. This is a monthly meeting where we take a look at everything new in G Suite from the last month. We share Google tips and tricks, and we answer questions related to using Google tools in school. My name is Eric Kurtz, even though I may not sound like myself at the moment, battling a bit of a upper respiratory infection over the last few days, but I'm on the mend, feeling much better. Just unfortunately, my voice is not quite there. So please bear with me as we work through this here today. I am a technology integration specialist at the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium, or SPARC for short. We're an information technology center serving schools in Northeast Ohio. However, even though we keep mentioning Ohio, this meeting is open to anyone, whether you're in Ohio or outside of Ohio. As long as you got an interest in Google tools, we're happy that you're here. And speaking of my failing voice here today, thankfully, I do not have to take care of this meeting all by myself. I am, as always, joined by Stephanie. And so I'm going to go ahead and throw that over to you and let you introduce yourself as well.
Hey everyone, so Stephanie Howe here. I'm with Pickerington Local School District, and I just help students and teachers use technology in powerful ways. And I'm so excited to have everybody joined in today right before Thanksgiving break. So hopefully you enjoy this November update.
Fantastic. And we will be joined later on by Ann Radefeld, probably a little bit later in the meeting when we get closer to the show and tell portion of it. And Ann's going to share some great resources with us. We always love to get a chance to hear from other folks. And each month we try to have on a special guest. This month, Ann will be with us. Now, all of the resources for today's meeting can be found in our Google Doc editable agenda, which is located on the GEG Ohio website at bit.ly/GEG Ohio. Once you get to that website, you can just scroll down to the link for the monthly meetings. And once you get there, you'll see a list of all the meetings, such as today's meeting, and a link that will take you to the agenda document. We definitely encourage you to follow along in that document. It is an editable document, so please feel free to add your own content to it. If you want to type right in the document, that is fantastic. Feel free to add anything to the upcoming events or to what's new in G Suite if you know of an update that we missed, or definitely add things to the Q&A section if you have any questions or you have an answer to provide for one of the questions there. And of course, show and tell. This is a great place to share any great resources you've come across recently, maybe a blog post you've written, a cool extension you found, a great activity. Please feel free to share that, link that in there so we can all benefit from the resources that you have. And of course, you can also leave comments in the document. That is certainly fine. If you prefer to just highlight some text and hit the little comment button, you can just go ahead and leave a little comment in the side. And we also do have the comment feature turned on YouTube. So for those that are watching live, feel free to throw something in the YouTube chat as well. Between Stephanie and myself, we'll do our best to keep an eye on all of the comments, whether they're in the document or in the YouTube chat, and make sure we can incorporate all of your suggestions and questions. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and jump on into the agenda and get this meeting started. So we already did our little introductions with Stephanie and myself. Under important links, the only thing that I'm going to highlight is what I do each meeting, which is our sign-in form. We do ask that you take a moment to click on this link to get to the sign-in form, which allows you to pick today's date and to indicate if this is the first time you've attended one of our Google user group meetings or not. This information is used in two ways. Number one, I use it to generate a PDF certificate of attendance that I email out between the meetings. So that way you can get credit for being a part of this meeting. And then secondly, we do send in numbers to Google. I don't send in any personal information, so your name and email, that's just so that I can do your certificate. But I do use this to be able to send to Google the quantity of people who attend the meetings, because that is something that they do want to track, and whether or not it was your first time or not attending one of these. So please do take a moment when you get a chance and fill that out under the important links, the sign-in form. Below that, we do have a section called updates where we just talk about the group itself. We do still maintain the old GEG Ohio Google Plus community. There's over 2,000 members in that. Unfortunately, now Google Plus is a little bit more limited. You are no longer able to use Google Plus with a personal Gmail account. You have to use a school G Suite for Education account. So I know some folks are not able to participate in that anymore. If you are able to, though, please feel free to join this community. We still do share resources there. However, because we want to make sure everybody can participate, we did set up a new back in the summertime, a new GEG Ohio Google group, an email distribution group. And there are directions here for how to join that group, either by going to the website or by sending an email to the group. This is just a great way to be able to stay in touch with everybody in between the meetings. If you got a question, if you got a resource, if there's something you need to share and connect with all the other educators in and around Ohio on Google tools, the GEG Ohio Google group is a great way to do that. I would encourage you to sign up for that today. All right, the next section that we're going to take a look at are the upcoming events. And so this would be typically a little bit more Ohio centric. So I do apologize for those people that are from outside of the Ohio area. Some of these may not apply to you as much, but for those that are in and around here, hopefully one of these will be valuable for you. I will mention the first one, then I'll turn it over to Stephanie for the second. The first one is a applied digital skills workshop that is coming up in December. So this is one I'll actually be running at Nowaka up in Archbold. And this is December 17th from 9 a.m. to noon. This is a totally free workshop. Google's been providing these all over the country for the last year or so on their applied digital skills curriculum. So if you're anywhere in Northwest Ohio, if you're up in that corner of the state, this would be a wonderful workshop to attend or to let folks in your school know about. It basically is a 3-hour workshop where you'll learn all the ins and outs of how to use the applied digital skills curriculum with students and adult learners. If you're not familiar with applied digital skills, there's some more details there, or feel free to drop me an email and let me know if you need more details on that. And then the next one, Stephanie, I'll turn that over to you.
So the next one is my school district. We have an innovation conference and it is January 17th. We've been doing it for the last couple years. And before it was just open to Pickerington Local School employees. And this year we're opening about 100 spots for educators that are outside of Pickerington. And we always have a really big keynote. So this year we're having Michael Bonner. He was at ISTE this past year and he did the closing keynote at ISTE, and he is really big on relationships. And then we're also having Jimmy Cassis. He's going to close us out and he's going to kind of help our principals too in some of the sessions. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. If you are interested in attending, you do have to get selected to present. So on that page, there's an area where you can sign up to put in your application to present. And if you are chosen, you could maybe be at our innovation conference. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Again, it is going to be kind of competitive because there's only a limited number of spots, but it's going to be a really good conference. It's one of my favorite days of the entire year.
Well, that's fantastic. Very good. And yes, I do remember Michael Bonner from the closing at ISTE. So that is, you guys have some great folks that you've had there. That's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
The next one up is Neotech. So this would be my corner of the state, so Northeast Ohio. So if you're up in the Akron, Canton area, Cleveland area, anywhere Northeast Ohio, you certainly know about Neotech. It's been going on for many years. Very similar to the Spark conference that we do in August. This is the one done by NeoNet. This year it's going to be March 16th and 17th at the John S. Knight Center in Akron. I would say the key thing here would be to save the date, get this on your calendar, but also do notice that proposals are now being accepted and they will close January 20th. So a little bit of time still to get that in, about 2 months, but you will want to participate in that. It is it's always been an excellent conference, and I've enjoyed attending and presenting for many years.
And then the final conference that's on the list is the Ohio Google Summit. So they are accepting presentations now. So you'll want to make sure you get those in by January 15th. We are not meeting, I believe, in December because of all the holidays. So we just
Right.
wanted to make sure that that's out there because by the next meeting, it will be closed. So if you do want to present, make sure you put in. It's really easy. It's a Google form. It's pretty quick and simple. So hopefully I see some of you guys there.
That is fantastic. That is a great conference, and thanks for the reminder that you're right. With December being Christmas break and so forth, we will not be doing a GEG Ohio meeting in December. Also, it tends to be that we notice things slow down a bit as far as Google's announcements and new releases and stuff. Typically, December is a really light month, so we'll just roll all of those into the January meeting. Anything that does come out in the next month. All right. Well, that brings us to one of the largest sections of our meeting each month, and that is what is new in G Suite for Education. Because we all know Google is a moving target. They're constantly releasing new features and resources. And so, one thing that Stephanie and I try to do is just keep our eyes open for anything new that gets announced and try to bring it all together in one place for you. Understand life is crazy and busy and you don't have time to keep up on all these things, and so the idea is to give you a one-stop shop here to know what happened in the last month with G Suite, so that you're not caught off guard and you can get ahead of it in case any of these new updates might affect you. Now, we're not going to go through every one of these. As you can see, we have bolded certain ones that, for one reason or another, Stephanie or I saw and thought, oh yeah, that's one would really like to talk about. Having said that, I would encourage you to check out all of the links. If there's something here that we're not talking about that you are interested in, those links are all available there. And also let us know if there's one that you do want us to talk about. If you have a question on something that we skip over, that is awesome. All right. Well, Stephanie, would you like to get us started off with what's new in G Suite for Education?
I can. So the first link is learning how to use Google Sheets with Coursera. And this is a great way because I know a lot of people want to know more about Google Sheets and it can be kind of confusing with all the different formulas and everything. So this is kind of a great way to start learning about it with this course.
Yeah, and it's free, which is nice. Yeah, I know that Coursera has been around for a long time. And I don't know if you remember when MOOCs were like a really, really big thing. And everybody thought MOOCs, what is it, massive online open courses. Um, we thought, oh, they're going to take over the world and, everybody's going to learn through MOOCs. And you still can. I mean, there's a lot of really valuable content out there. And I think sometimes we forgot about it. It's like it kind of, at least in K-12 education, I think, we kind of forgot a little bit about it. Well, Google is using Coursera to host this particular course on Google Sheets. And yeah, it's free and you can take it anytime that you want. And it looks like the content covers, from basics to formulas to, creating, pivot tables as far as you want to get into it. So always nice to see free training available. So, if that's something you were looking to bone up on a little bit.
And there's always
Excellent.
so much that you can do with Google Sheets that I feel like we don't utilize in education. I think teachers are sometimes scared of Google Sheets. So I
Right.
think too, as a tech coach, if you could go ahead and introduce that to teachers, and plus it's on a setting where they're able to go at it self-paced.
Right.
Um, and so that might be a really good resource that you could share out with teachers.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. Sheets is such a powerful tool. Once people get turned on to what you can do with it, it really can be just a constantly used tool. I mean, I think I use Google Sheets every day in my job, one way or another, to a lot of times just to make life easier for people, to let the technology do some of the heavy lifting so that instead of, you taking time to, work through all of this data, the sheet can do it for you and you can spend time working with people instead. So good stuff. All right. The next news item that caught our attention was good news for Chromebooks. So it looks like Google has recently extended the life of over 100 Chromebooks as far as how long they will get their updates and support. So this article from 9 to 5 Google links out to an article on Android Police. And so if you go to the first article, then you find the link to the Android Police article, then you'll get to the real details on here, where they have this chart where they've shown all of these different Chromebook models and what used to be the end of life date for them, and now what the new end of life date is. Now, it's not every one of them didn't get a year, but for the most part, most Chromebooks got an extra year, in some cases 2 years, in some cases 6 months, but for the most part, about another year of support that they'll be getting for updates, which is great. Again, you could certainly use a Chromebook after it doesn't get the updates anymore, but understandably, it becomes a security risk at that point. And I totally understand why that would be a concern for schools. So this is great news that we'll have a little bit more life in the Chromebooks that we do have. All right.
And then
What's up next?
the next one is text boxes in Google Sites. They're going to kind of look a lot cleaner. Rather than having a bunch of text all over a Google site, you can see that there's a drop down on this GIF, and you can then now see more text as you click that little arrow, which just kind of will help students organize their thoughts as they're searching on a website. It's not going to be as text heavy. And so then they can quickly see, okay, I need to go to this section on this website. They can click the down arrow and read more. Just making it a lot cleaner look.
That's nice. You think I probably see that a lot of times with like a help page or an FAQ type of a page. And we haven't had that option in Google Sites to build those before, but now we could do that, because I see that a lot of times, like when I go to like one of the Google Help sites, you'll see all of the questions, you'll click and it'll expand. So nice that Google Sites will now allow us to do the same thing. Well, that's good. I know we've still got a ways to go with Google Sites getting the new version to be completely on par with the old version, but this is a feature that the old version didn't even have. So that's kind of neat to see that they've added this in. I know there's still a few things that we're missing, like page level permissions and some other things like that that we still want to see from the old version, but good for them. Awesome. All right, let's see what's up next. Oh, hey, we finally got an update on adding audio to Google Slides. So when this, I mean, how long ago has this been now? I think audio first got announced back in like March or April. I mean, this has been like a long time ago that they announced that we'd be able to use audio in Google Slides, and a lot of domains did get that feature pretty quickly. So like if I go in to create a new slideshow and I go to my insert menu, I could insert audio. Well, that worked on one of my domains. This is my school domain, but it didn't show up on my trainer domain. It didn't show up on my personal Google account. And so it was, apparently there were some issues with the rollout. They were having some technical problems, and Google kept saying, okay, we're going to eventually get it out to everybody. Well, thankfully, it should pretty much be there now, because the scheduled release domains starting on November 11th with up to 15 days needed. So that would get us up to the 27th. So that's tomorrow, or 26th. That's today. So hopefully everybody now has this feature that if you go into Google Slides, you can insert audio into your slide, and then just, of course, you have to pick the audio from your drive. So there's a few more steps. I mean, it does involve recording the audio ahead of time, putting it in your drive, making sure it's shared, and then you can grab it out of your drive. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that eventually this will get even better, and you'll just click, insert audio, and there'll be a record button, and you can, either say from drive or record new. That'll be really nice when that happens. But at least now, most of us are all on the same page, because I know I've shared a lot about, activities you can do with this, but not everybody could take advantage of them. So glad to see that has now made it out, hopefully, to everybody.
And Eric, I added your blog post about the audio features because I've used this in the past, which has been really helpful because some of my teachers had audio and then others did not. So it was kind of like half and half. And so this website that Eric created, his blog post about audio, really helps because there is no insert option, like he said. And so this allows you to kind of use some other websites or extensions in place of not having that insert button.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I really wish we could just exactly. I wish we could just record the audio directly in Google Slides. But for now, we do have to record it ahead of time. And so that's right. In this blog post, I did mention 4 different tools like online voice recorder or beautiful audio editor or twisted wave that are totally free. They're all cloud-based. Now, feel free to use whatever audio recording tool you want, of course. But these are some that would work on Chromebooks. They would work really pretty much for anybody to record your audio. And then the rest of the blog post goes into the details of, so how do you then get that audio, put into your drive? And then once it's in your drive, how do you get it into your slideshow? So thanks for linking that in. Good
And
deal.
also, just to be aware, I know some of the audio websites require Flash to play and use. Flash is going away, I believe, at the end
Yes.
of next year, so 2020. I think it's like December 2020, maybe. So just be aware of that some of those websites that you might use that use Flash, I know there's a couple audio,
Right.
I forget what the one's
Well,
called. Yeah,
Vocaroo
Vocaroo.
would be a
That's
good
it.
example. Now they're
Yeah.
working on a beta
Okay.
that's not Flash based. And I've heard people talk about it. I tried to test it out, but was not able to access it. So they must still be working on it. But yeah, Vocaroo is a good example. You're right. People have used that for a long time, but it's Flash based. Yeah.
Yeah, so just be aware of that as you go to websites that Google, Chrome. I mean, there's a bunch of different web browsers that will not support Flash anymore.
Right. And that's an important thing. I really do try to be very careful when I share any kind of resources. I've stopped sharing any Flash resources probably about, I'm going to say a good year or 2 ago. I just, because I knew that was coming. And so whenever I do one of my blog posts, or if I do like my monthly tech links of the month for math and science and all those different things, if I come across something that's Flash based, I have no longer been including them because it's just unfortunate. They're going to go away. So I don't want to get people excited about a tool that's not going to be working. Yeah. All right. What do we have here next?
So the next one is kind of the way that Google Sites, I feel like they're making a ton of updates with Google Sites. I know before it was like Google Classroom. Now it's like Google Sites is kind of their focus, I feel like. So rather than it being on the right side of the screen, you can now have it on the left, and it's adding more languages too.
Excellent. Oh, that is fantastic. We, keep talking so much about in my job about making sure that, we're meeting the needs of all of our students and families. And, they're not always, having English as their primary language. And so any tool that is going to help us bridge that gap is very welcomed. Great update. Well, now the next one maybe seems like just a silly fun thing, but the reason why I linked it in was because of the AI portion of this. So basically, Google is constantly working on artificial intelligence advancements, and recently they had worked on some AI that could detect the pitch at which somebody was speaking or singing. And then after they had developed that AI, they're like, well, how can we show it off? What can we do with it to show that, it it works? And so what we did was um, we, oh, there we go. They added in this tool, which is the FreddieMeter, and it allows you to go in and see if you can sing like Freddie Mercury. And so I've tried this out. I am not going to do that in the meeting here today. I am not going to do that today. But I did try this out. I sang Bohemian Rhapsody a couple times, to keep trying it out and see how good of a percentage I could get. Spoiler alert, my percentage was not very high. But the idea is the artificial intelligence listens to you sing and then tries to see how well your pitch matches, the actual original song. I guess again, it's cute, it's fun, it's a neat, little example of how this tool can work. But for me, what I get excited about anytime I see these things is the constant improvement in artificial intelligence, that we're, getting, more and more ways for the computer to be able to interact with people, understanding words, understanding images, understanding syntax, and now even being able to identify pitch. So I just wanted to, yeah, anybody that knows me knows I'm a big AI geek. So wanted to, take at least a moment to mention, that. And could still also just be a fun thing to do. Come on, who doesn't want to sing like Freddie Mercury? So if you haven't tried it out, do take it for a spin. Now, somebody's saying, come on, Eric, sing, no star. Well, actually, being sick wouldn't make much difference. And the fact that of course, that could be my excuse now. I could say, oh, the reason I can't is because I've got this respiratory infection. But even when I wasn't sick, no, my percentage still wasn't too good. But hey, maybe at one of our upcoming conferences, if there's some ed tech karaoke, perhaps I'll get up on the stage and we'll try it out. But all right, let's keep on going. What's up next, Stephanie?
The next one is pronouncing words. So this is a really exciting feature. And I feel like this is also going to help with vocabulary a little bit too. So it's going to help with the different languages. So right now they're working on the Spanish to English type of feature to help people, practice pronouncing different words that is most commonly searched, I'm sure, with Google. So I feel like, you're defining words and then you're trying to learn how to pronounce things. So you can actually listen to it and then you can also practice and it will tell you if you did a good job or not.
Oh, that's so
As you're
cool.
practicing it. And I just feel like this is really going to be huge as it keeps growing, not only just like with the translation between Spanish to English, but also maybe like with vocab words. I know a lot of times students struggle with practicing it and saying it. So this would give them that
Yeah.
opportunity. And then they can get that immediate feedback on how they did on saying it. Also, it kind of shows them that mouth feature,
Yes.
which I think kind of would help students to see like how does your mouth need to be. I'm trying to think like what the right word is. Like how does your mouth need to function, like
Right.
formulate those
Yeah.
words?
Right.
Because some people need to see that, especially like I know hard of hearing. If you have a hard time
Sure.
hearing, you do look at people's mouths more than I might, and so that's very important for you. So I just feel like they're making this very accessible for everybody. And then there's also working on the visuals to help explain that word's meaning, which is huge with vocabulary. I know when you're able to
Right.
show pictures to students, it really helps deepen their understanding of vocabulary words. So I
Yeah.
really see this feature being huge.
Well, that's great. And again, I imagine it's very similar to the Freddie Mercury thing. It's the artificial intelligence, is that it's listening to you pronounce these words. So it's pronouncing it for you, but then you can practice it. And I love how it breaks it down and says, okay, well, you were close, but here's where you made a mistake. Here's where you didn't quite get the right vowel sound, or you didn't, pronounce the consonant correctly. And then you can keep practicing that until you're able to speak it properly. Great for accessibility, great for fluency, great for foreign language, great for, oh, wow, that's really neat.
Yeah, and I
So,
love how it tells you exactly where you missed. Like it sounds like you missed it at this
yeah,
letter.
yeah, love it. Good stuff. And I believe that's just on mobile at the moment. So you could check that on your phone, and who knows, maybe that'll come to desktop eventually as well. All right, next up, Classroom. Google Classroom rolled out rubrics a couple months ago here in beta. I do have the beta set up here in my domain, and I've played with it a little bit. The big news was that rubrics could now be reused. When it was first set up, what was happening was when you would create a rubric, it was just for that particular assignment. But now when you go in Classroom to use a rubric, you'll have the option to reuse an existing rubric that you've had before. And so this could be either from the class you're in, or it could be from another class. Let's see if it'll let me refresh this. I was hoping it would let me refresh. Oh, here it comes. I was going to play that again on the screen. There we go. And you can pull rubrics from other classes as well. So when you go to rubric now, instead of create rubric, you can choose reuse, and you can pick the class you want to grab it from. So what's nice, you could just basically set up, a single rubric that you use over and over and over again for a certain type of an assignment. And that'll just save a lot of time of having to go through, and recreate that each time. So good stuff. All right.
Yeah, and I know we were just talking about how we would like that feature, I think back in September. So it's really cool to see that Google did add it.
Yeah. Good deal.
Um,
All right. What's up next?
The next one, so another Google Sites update. They are allowing, it did get pushed back. So it says like updated on November 25th that it is paused for right now because they're working on updating the performance. So it's kind of like that audio feature,
Yep.
but it is coming soon. But this is going to be really nice, especially I could see it for parents that you might have like a website and you might have forgot how to contact you. So if you turn this feature on, I think once you create new sites, it will be automatically on, but any pre-existing ones, you will have to turn that little show contact form on and save it. But once you have it all set up, at the bottom, it's gonna say, I forget what it says. There's another GIF on the,
Yeah, you're right. That first one shows turning it
yeah,
on, then
and
it's
then at the
like
bottom,
some kind of a little information button, I guess.
and then you
Yeah.
can say like, oh, this link's broken is like their example. But I could see parents, because a lot of times parents, they need what's convenient for them. And so that button would be right there. They could say, okay, email about homework, put in the question, and then send it right to you. And then they showed an example of what the email will look like too at
Right.
the bottom.
There we go. Yeah.
So it's just an easier way to contact people. I know sometimes it is hard to find how to contact the owner of a Google site. So this just makes it really simple to let people know, hey, this link's broken, or if you have more questions, and then you can email them right back.
Another nice thing about this, and I don't always think about this, but I know it's been a topic that's come up in a lot of our technology meetings when we have like our district tech coordinators get together, is how much information should we put on a website as far as like email addresses
Mhm.
because of phishing, issues out there that you'll have folks that are being malicious going to a school website and trying to collect as many email addresses as they can, and then using those email addresses with a little social engineering to try to send phishing messages to them and get them to think they're official messages and maybe give up their password or something like that. And so we've heard more and more encouragement to not have email addresses necessarily just sitting, right out there, on the website. But then you're like, but we want to contact, we still need people to be able to reach us. Well, this is nice because it does allow a way to still get in touch even if you don't have your email address just sitting right out there. Other things usually that we hear as suggestions is for a school district not maybe putting like a person's email address on the site as contact, but instead creating an email that's something like, info@myschool.org or whatever. And that way it's not, giving away somebody's particular name. So this does fit nicely as well into the privacy and the anti-phishing concerns that some schools have.
Yeah, and this is definitely helpful for students that create websites
Yeah,
and
that would,
looking for that feedback, because I
right.
know under the 13 and under age, you want to protect them. And so this is
Yeah,
one way that you could.
I love that. Well, the next one up definitely is an exciting update, and that is that Google Earth now has a project tool that's been added that allows you to create your own tours right inside of Google Earth. So, I guess the preface behind this is there have been ways to create tours in the past. And I mean, I know I've shared loads of information about this in webinars I've done and trainings and blog posts. In the past, we basically would either use something like, Tour Builder. And so Tour Builder is Google's tool that allows you to create a tour by dropping, points on a map. And I've probably got loads of like, examples I've done, in the past here. Um, like, oh, this must have just been a demo I was working on. So this one doesn't really have much in it, but that's okay. But where you could drop, pins on the map, and then for each location on the map, you could add pictures and descriptions and so forth. And that was great. It is still is. It's a wonderful tool. I love Tour Builder. Always suggest people, use that. And when you were done building a tour in Tour Builder, you could go up to the menu in the top right and you could open the tour in Google Earth. So you could export it over to Google Earth. So all of that was great. I mean, that's all good stuff. But what is really nice about this now is it's built right into Google Earth. So um, honestly, if I had, I think this probably is going to be what I'm going to recommend going forward. As much as I love, love, love Tour Builder, this pretty much mimics everything Tour Builder does and a little bit more. It actually gives a few more features and it's built right into Google Earth. So basically, the idea now is if I head out over to Google Earth, I'll just go ahead and open up Google Earth. And it may take it, I should have probably started it earlier because it takes a moment or two to launch it here. Um, but when you get into Google Earth now, there's a new button over here on the left called Projects. And if you click on Projects, you can come in and say you want to create a project. And when you create a project, you can now drop onto the globe place marks. You can search for places. You can draw lines and shapes. And for each place, you can add pictures and videos and descriptions. So basically, you can make your own tours. So if you've ever used like the Voyager option here in Google Earth to fly through all these different tours, or if you've ever used Google's Tour Builder in the past, same idea. But now we're doing it, right inside of Google Earth. So what are the benefits? Why would we switch from Tour Builder over to this? Well, again, it is all in one. You're in Google Earth while you're doing this, so you don't have to then export it later. But some of the other things that are nice is that it is collaborative. And so if you look here in the top, you'll see there's a button that says Share Project. So this is something that you could not do in Tour Builder. Tour Builder was not collaborative. Only one person could edit the tour. Well, here now we can share this as a collaborative tour, and we could work together on building the trip or the Lewis and Clark expedition or whatever it is you're mapping out and creating the tour. So that's something that I think is in itself definitely worthwhile because now the kids can work together on the tours. But the other thing that's nice about it is the ability to not just drop places and place marks like you could in Tour Builder, but the ability to draw lines or shapes. So we can actually outline a location or draw a line along a path and have that part of the tour. And then they also give you the option to add what they call full screen slides. So while the tour is playing, you can every now and then pause in the middle of the tour to have like a slide come up that has a real pretty picture and maybe a subtitle and some additional information before you move on to the next part of the tour. Now, I think in addition to all of the information that we put in here, which includes um, their tutorials, here's I think 3 different videos that Google put out on the basics of using it, adding features, styling places. They've got a nice help page on it. I believe we have further down in here, I thought in show and tell. Yeah. So in show and tell, we've got a couple examples here. Donnie Piercy did one and Josh Williams did one on man-made disasters, and Donnie's is on the solar system. And so if you want to see an example of what could be built with this, you can follow these links and you'll see, it'll take it a moment to open up there. But you can see that I've got this tour here, and I guess we jumped kind of into the middle of this one. Probably should start back at the start of it. Let's get back to the beginning. There we go. And so this is one of those slides we talked about, how you can have a full screen slide, and then as you move through, it'll fly you in, to the location. In this case, what Donnie was doing with his students was showing a scale representation of our solar system using, locations on our Earth to get a feel for, oh my gosh, that's how far or close things would be. So you've got the sun and then you can see how far Mercury would be away. And then, and then you learn about Mercury. And then as you keep going, we start working through all the different planets here. Well, you can guess eventually as we do this, we're going to get further and further and further away. I want to get to some of the exciting ones here. So once we get past Mars, it'll probably start. There we go. We're going to start jumping out a bit more. So there's Jupiter, and you get the idea. But these tours can be used in so many ways. Like we talked about lit trips, where you are taking the locations from a novel and putting them all onto the map, or you can be visiting different biomes around the world. So many possibilities there. So very excited about this, which unfortunately means I guess I have to update a lot of my stuff, because for a long time, Google Tour Builder has been my go-to example for creating tours. So guess it's time for me to update all my stuff, because this is probably going to be my go-to recommendation going forward on tours.
And I think too, with like Tour Creator, if you want students to create the Google Expeditions, you'll want to use that, right?
Right,
I don't think
right.
you can do that yet with Google Earth. I don't know if they'll make that or not, but you'll want to use Google Tour Creator
You are
with that,
correct.
if that's depending on what your goal is for the lesson. Also, it's really cool with the Google Earth because you can add videos and photos, and you can add multiple different locations. I see them adding the audio feature just like it does in the creator piece, but for right now, it's not available.
Right.
So you would have to use like a YouTube video type workaround for that.
Yeah. So really excited. Great tool, and looking forward to taking the stuff I did in Tour Builder and porting it over to this new project tool and running it through all its paces, and hopefully have a blog post and a video out sometime in the future on that. But there's lots and lots of great resources that you can dive into and start using it right now. I do see a comment over to the side here about it looks like adding a contact form widget to your site. So in addition to this feedback option here, we do have a link to another tool that could be investigated for leaving feedback. So thank you for sharing that. Now, Stephanie, do you know much about this next one? I went ahead and I took the time and I watched that video. I did not add this in, so I did not know about this. I saw the blog post and kind of just skipped over it, and then I watched this video, and wow, was that insightful?
Yeah, so I suggest watching the video. YouTube's just trying to make it more privacy protection, along with every other website. And the biggest thing that kind of caught my eye was if your videos are not child friendly, but they're labeled that way in YouTube, it's gonna cost you some money. I think it's 46,000. Is that right?
Oh yeah, there's some, yeah,
So
$42,000 per video.
yeah, so we really do need to be careful about uploading videos. 42,000 per video. So I definitely think they are making the YouTube videos more kid friendly, which is a good thing. But I think it's going to be just that extra step to think, okay, is this for kids or is it not? And I think people are going to get that fine if they're not. And I see changing happening, especially when there's money involved.
Wow. I watched that whole video too, and I got to think, okay, so I guess, I mean, I've got, I don't know how many videos on my YouTube channel, loads and loads and loads of them. And try to think, oh, so what does this mean for me? I need to go in and label my videos as child friendly, or because what they were saying was, in the video that I watched there, one of the concerns is the discouragement this might cause for some folks, because if something is potentially child friendly,
Mhm.
then it needs to be labeled as child friendly. And once it's labeled as child friendly, then a lot of things are going to get turned off for that video. I don't remember all of the things that get turned off for it. I think commenting may even be one of the things that gets turned off on it, because it's labeled as a child friendly video. But I do know Personalized ads will be turned off, not contextual ads. So like an ad that deals with the content of the video would still be there. But you know how YouTube kind of watches your search preferences and then it gives you tailored ads. That could not, those will no longer be able to be played on videos that are deemed child friendly because they don't want to be targeting ads toward children. Well, what they're saying is their concern is it's going to discourage a lot of YouTube content creators because if they're making videos that in any way even are remotely child friendly, maybe they're talking about a game, maybe they're talking about, you know, some, like I think of myself, I talk about fun, creative ways to use Google tools in the classroom. Could those be considered child friendly? Well, if they are, they have to be labeled as such. And at that point, it takes off a good chunk of the ads from those videos. Now, I don't monetize any of my videos. Not any of them whatsoever. So that doesn't affect me. But there's a lot of folks that this is their livelihood. And one of the reasons they're creating really good content on YouTube is because they are making money from it. I mean, it's something that they're able to support themselves with. And the person who did this video here, they go into great detail about how, well, if my videos have to be listed as child friendly because I cover things that, a child could be interested in, and I can no longer get the same amount of ad revenue off of it, I might not be able to make as many videos. So we're not sure yet what ramifications this might have. Is this going to start causing some of the really child-friendly channels on YouTube to start drying up? Are people going to not create as much child-friendly content? So good thing to be aware of. I know I'm going to have to dig into this a little bit deeper and make sure that between now and I guess January, go through all the videos on my channel and decide whether or not I need to mark them as child friendly or not. Yeah. All right. What are we left with? Just a few more things. Looks like our next topic here is on Smart Compose being added to Google Docs. So this one at first glance appears to be a pretty basic update, but when I thought about it a little bit more, a second question arose, and I did post it on Twitter and got some interesting feedback from folks. So here's the deal. Most of us are very familiar with Smart Compose for Gmail. I think I think most of us are very familiar with that. If I start writing an email message, and you say something like, thanks for, and then it puts, reaching out, it'll like, put in gray a suggestion for what it thinks you're trying to type. And then you hit tab and it goes ahead and accepts that, or you just keep typing and ignore the suggestion. So Smart Compose for Gmail, we've had that for, I don't know, probably a year, and it's nice. I like it. I definitely do. It saves me a lot of time when I'm writing an email message because it kind of figures out probably what I'm going to write. Well, what Google's doing is they're extending Smart Compose to Google Docs in a beta. And so the idea is you could be writing a Google document now. And as you're typing along in your document, it's going to start showing in gray some suggestions for what it thinks you might want to type after the word or phrase you've typed. Now, there's a part of me that gets excited about this and says, hey, I am all for using technology to make our life easier. I love accessibility, accommodations, support. It's a lot like, predictive text. If you've ever used that, read and write for Google has predictive text. A lot of accessibility and accommodation tools have predictive text. So it's a lot like predictive text. And so my first gut reaction is, yes, this is awesome. Anything that helps, kids to get their ideas out is great. But then I started thinking, and again, I don't know where I actually have landed on this yet. I started thinking, well, but is it ever possible to get too much assistance when writing? Because it's not like grammar check. It's not like saying, hey, you already wrote this and we think you use the wrong verb tense. Instead, at what point does it cross over and the AI is actually co-writing with you? Like if I start typing a sentence, I don't know yet until I can actually play with this. How much will it suggest, And is that at that point no longer the student's words? Is it the AI's words that are now getting used? And students like, oh, I like that. That sounds really good. And they accept the suggestion. Is that too much help? Are there going to be teachers who call that cheating? Are they going to say you're not writing anymore? At this point, you're co-writing. You're having an artificial intelligence help you write this. It's not just correcting your grammar, it is suggesting content for your writing. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to this. Um, but this is, I think, one of those first times when it's made me pause and say, okay, is this too much? And if it's not too much yet, well, oh, Eric, it's only putting out 2 or 3 words. It's not like writing the next sentence for you. Okay, but will it someday? I mean, artificial intelligence is getting better all the time. And how much is too much? Is this maybe good for elementary kids? But maybe a high school teacher would say, no, that's too much assistance. You need to just write this on your own. I don't know. Stephanie, do you have any thought about this? Does anybody else in the chat have a feeling? Is there a point where we go too far and the AI is now writing the paper for us rather than just helping us do the best writing we can do?
So my teachers had a similar issue with the air testing because spelling is, there's no spell check. And so with Google Docs, where the kids would practice, they would have spell check on the Google Docs. So we actually had to go in and turn it off, and teach the teachers how to do that so that they could practice for air, which I kind of struggled with because in the real world, spell check is available.
Right.
And you
Right.
can use it whenever you need it. You can even, say, hey, Google, or whatever you need to do to ask it how to spell a certain word. And that's just the world that we live in right now. So I kind of struggle going back and forth. Like, yeah, they do need to know how to spell, but in today's world, there's so many resources available to them to help them. And if they choose to use those resources or not, kind of going back and forth. So I see this being really helpful for students that do struggle with writing. But we've also kind of used this already with Read and Write. They have this tool already available
Right. Right.
in Read and Write, but it gives students, I think, more options than what it seems like Google.
Yeah, like I've used that too. Like, I'll type George Washington. I'll type George, and then it'll drop down like 10 suggestions,
Yeah.
Washington or Bush or whatever, and I can pick. It's basically the idea that maybe if a student is struggling with typing, it
Yeah.
would save them the time of typing it by saying, "Is this one of the words you're trying to type? Can we make this faster for you?" Right.
But I mean, all the time when I use it already with Gmail, because I do use this feature,
Right.
I mean, it's so much easier. I can just send an email quicker and it is time consuming. So I do use it. So I see both sides.
I guess for me, it would be like, how much prediction is it doing? Now, in this GIF that we're seeing here, it looks like it's only suggesting 2 or 3 words at a
Mhm.
time. So probably not enough for me to like really feel like, oh, we've got a red flag here, but I need to get my hands on it. So I went ahead and signed up for the beta. I'm waiting to hear. So there is a link in the article that is linked into the agenda where you can sign up for the beta. So I did do that, and I'm waiting to, see how that goes. So once I'm in that, I would like to see, how much help does it really give? Is it really mostly just predictive text? Well, if okay, that's fine. I mean, we get that all the time on our phones right now. You start typing a word and it offers to complete it for you, um, or is it much, much, much more, And
Mhm.
so my guess is if it's like what we've seen in Gmail, it's not that much. It's a few words. Like I said, it'll try to complete a phrase that I'm in the middle of, as opposed to actually, writing the whole thing for me. Although I don't know. I think we've all probably done this at some point. There's that fun game you play where you put in one word and you just take whatever's suggested and you see what it ends up writing for you. And sometimes some really interesting things come out. I guess what I'm saying is this is the beginning of the first time we've started to see AI suggesting new content in your writing. Could this grow? Could this, grow, and instead of suggesting two or three words, it's suggesting, a whole sentence or something. So it's just a good discussion. I think these are the things we need to talk about. And you know me, I am not. I mean, I love anything that's new and innovative, and it's not like, oh my goodness, well then we can't, use this. Well, I don't know. I mean, like you said, spell check is a part of everyday life, and we still fight against it. You know, um, at what point do we, say, okay, well, we may have to reevaluate what writing really means? Is does writing have to be absolutely just, nothing but your words, or can AI work with you to help you be a better writer? And is that still totally valid as a writing option? So I don't know. It's out there. I'd love to hear what people think about it. And we'll kind of keep an eye on that as we move forward.
Yeah, and two, I mean, it would be nice, like I think Abid said in the chat, you can maybe turn it off in the admin console,
I
but then
think
you're
that's right.
you're
Yeah.
turning it off for everybody, um, which can be kind of hard when you've got different classes, different grade bands too. Like you said, like an elementary student compared to high school student might need it, because I think in the admin console, aren't you turning it off for everybody?
It would depend.
Okay.
Again, until I get in the beta, I'm not sure. I do want to take a look at it. It looks like it says once you've been accepted in the beta, it's turned on and can be disabled by the user. So the user can go into tools and preferences and turn it off. If it is also an admin console feature, most all of those do work by OU. So you can go into the organizational unit that you want to apply things to. I don't know. I don't know if that'll be something we can micromanage in the admin console, or if it will be just up to the end user to turn it on and off.
Yeah, and then also it'd be nice if Google eventually, like in Google Classroom, the teacher could decide, okay, I want these students to have it turned on, these students to have it turned off, because then you're really differentiating your instruction
Right.
as well. So I don't know if they're thinking about that, but that would be really nice for the teacher to have that ability to turn on and off, like spell check or smart compose or whatever
Right. Right.
was
Right.
needed for that activity, and then they could simply turn it on, because I know when you have kids doing it, it can be like, did they do it, did they not? Yeah,
Right.
so hopefully one day.
Oh, we'll keep an eye on that. I mean, Google definitely is getting a lot more granular in the admin console. Most features are configurable by organizational unit. Most things you can go in and say, the seventh graders get this tool versus the eighth graders, or however you've broken up your students. All right. So what do we, oops, did we skip one of them here? Looks like we may have had, unless you caught that. So Scott was saying, what could this potentially do with Google Classroom's originality reports?
Mm.
If you use too much, will it get flagged? So yeah, I mean, that's a neat crossover. So um, Google Classroom now has the option to run originality reports, which now that it's still in beta right now, you're able to use them unlimited for now. Once the originality reports come out of beta, you'll only be able to use them for 3 assignments per class per year. So like if you're an English teacher, you could pick, the final term paper the kids turn in. You could pick then maybe a semester paper, and then you could pick one more important paper during the year and say, I'm going to use it on that. And basically it's like turn it in. Google uses all their search features to compare a student's writing against basically the internet, and comes back with a report that says, here are all of the areas where your paper sound really, really familiar. It's very similar to this blog post, this article, this previously published, content. And eventually, I think it's also going to compare across your domain as well. So it can compare a student's report to maybe a report turned in by another student or a previous year, maybe an older brother or sister, and and they're reusing their report. Well, yeah. So Scott's question is, if if we start letting Smart Compose fill in things for us, does that then create a loop where originality reports then start noticing, similar things getting used over and over and over again? That would be potential, especially if it's doing, if it is um, doing the comparison across your domain. I think right now, um, it's not doing the, I think in the beta at the moment, it's comparing against things that are published on the internet, but I know they want to also compare the originality reports against your domain. All right. All right. So what's up next, Stephanie? Cloud print.
So cloud print is discontinuing. So this is where you could print from a different location and then it would be kind of ready once you got there. But I saw that a bid put in the comments that there is a workaround with paper cut. So I'm not familiar with this, but I'm sure that
Okay.
if you had any questions, a bid could help us too.
Well, that's encouraging because,
Because I
I
know a lot
mean,
of people were upset about this.
yeah, I mean, and it's a tough spot because on one hand, we're like, okay, printing, should we be printing as much as we are? And, I think most of us would probably say no. We probably shouldn't print as much as we do. We should probably try to be more digital. There's a lot of benefits to being digital and sharing things digitally instead of printing them. But the reality is, you still want to print things sometimes. You want to hang something up on the bulletin board. You want to, give something to somebody who doesn't have an electronic option. There are reasons to print. I still have paper. I do print, not much. I try to do as much digitally as I can. Well, Cloud Print made it so easy to be able to print from a device like a Chromebook. And that's where I would say the biggest impact here is, if you've got a Windows device or you've got a Mac device, chances are you can print fine because there's a Windows driver and there's a Mac driver that'll print to, a printer or a copier or whatever. But Chromebooks, it was a lot harder to print from them, and Cloud Print just made it so easy. You basically went into the admin console and you set up all of your, copiers or printers in there, and then you made them available to the Chromebooks. And then when you log in as a Chromebook and go to print, you didn't need special drivers installed because Chromebooks don't work like that. Like, you don't install a driver like on a Windows laptop. And so this allowed Chromebooks a very easy way to be able to print to pretty much any copier or printer in the building. But you could also do cloud print from your phone. I've taken things from my phone and cloud printed them to the printer in my office. And with this going away, we definitely need some kind of other options because it doesn't mean printing is going to go away. Kids are still there's going to be occasions when you want to print from the Chromebook and you don't want to have to say, well, share it to me, then I'll open it up on my Windows laptop, then I'll print it for you. So thanks for the paper cut link. I know of paper cut. I know a lot of schools use it. I'm not familiar with this mobility print that you have listed here. So I'll definitely want to look at that and see if that is an alternative that some schools might benefit from.
Yeah, and we don't have Google Cloud printing turned on. So our students can't print from their Chromebooks, and so they do
Okay.
have to share with teachers. But I know a lot of it was budget with printing because we were afraid that kids would just print everything. So the teachers kind of have to control that.
Understandable. Absolutely understandable. All right. Well, the final thing that we have, and we'll then move into the rest of the meeting, the final thing from what's new in Google, it's just a neat little website Google has set up called My Storytime that allows you to record your own stories that then can be played back on a Google Home and shared with others. And so the idea is you would head out to the My Storytime website. And when you get there, you could log in with your Google account and you could record a story or a message or whatever it is that you want to record. Once you've done that, you can go to your Google Home or a Google Assistant, and by saying the right words, which I will not say aloud because it's already listening. My phone is already going crazy. Just what I said right there, as my phone is lighting up like crazy next to me because it can hear me. So I won't say the words. Oh, there it goes. See, yep, there goes my Google Home. But if you say the right words, you could then have the story read back aloud, and you can also share your stories with other folks, as again, as long as they are 13 and over and have a Google account. But still, could be a neat way to, practice, fluency, but also to share a story in a creative manner that could then be played back in the class for the students. So, thought that one was clever. All right. Well, that gets us to the end of our What's New in Google. If anybody has something to add to any of that, please feel free to continue doing so. We're going to move into our next two sections here, but we will definitely scroll back through and see if anybody's got any comments or questions as well. Oh, I do see Abid did ask about, we skipped over the item about using Google Assistant on G Suite accounts rather than personal Google accounts. So yeah, thanks for calling that out there. You're right. We definitely have skipped over some of the things in here. There's just so much content, but for those who do like to use Google Assistant, which I certainly do. In the past, it was just for personal Google accounts. And there's now a beta program you can sign up for so that you can use your G Suite for Education account with Google Assistant as well. So this link will take you out to that blog post, and then there is an option here to sign up for the beta form so that your school accounts can use Google Assistant as well. All right, well, next up we have our Q&A and our show and tell sections. And then we also, like I said, have special guests. And it looks like Anne has joined us. I know she's been very quiet, but at some point she snuck into here. So I do want to acknowledge, Anne, that we do see that you have jumped into the meeting with us, and we welcome you so very much. And then what we're going to do is take just a couple of moments to look at the Q&A here to see if there's any questions that we can address for the group. But then when we get to show and tell, this is where we share, neat ideas, uses for G Suite, and we're going to give Anne some time during show and tell to share. Having said that, Anne, you can jump in at any point if there's something that you want to comment on related to the what's new in Google or the Q&A. Please do not feel that you have to wait until show and tell, but we will definitely give you a proper introduction at that time. All right. So in Q&A, again, we may not have answers for all of these. So we would say if you are watching this live or in the future, this is an editable document. You can definitely leave some feedback in here if you have an answer, because between everybody who's connected to this, hopefully somebody will be able to assist if we can't. So I see the first question here was asking, is there a way to limit the number of times a user can access and submit a Google form? Now, I know in the past, we've definitely talked about, being able to turn on that feature in a Google form where you can only submit it once. And so there is that option, but that's not the question here. The question is, what if you didn't want it to be one or infinite? Because that's kind of what the options are right now. If you go into a Google form, you can say you're allowed to either submit it only once, or you can submit it as many times as you want. So the question is, what if you wanted to let somebody submit it 3 times? Now, Stephanie, it looks like you might have filled in some answers on this one.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is you could copy the form 3 different times and then have 3 different links and then limit it to only one response only for each of those different links. That would also help with some of that learning science with the retrieval practice, because then you could shuffle the questions and they would be in different orders so the students wouldn't memorize the answers.
Right.
But that's the only option that I could think of. I don't think there's a way that you could set a limit for them to do the
Right.
test. So my suggestion was the 3 different links.
You know, and I'm drawing a blank too on that. I think your suggestion's a good one. Yeah, if you go into Google Forms right now, yeah, you can say limit to one response or not. So it's either infinite responses or one response. Um, so you know, it would this would be an option just to have multiple versions of the form in case there was a student who didn't pass it the first time and you wanted them to take it again. That would certainly work. Um, I know some folks had mentioned they're using something like form limiter. Um, the problem, I guess, with that is we don't want to turn off the entire form. We only want it to be limited per user. And so if I use something like form limiter, once it hits a certain limit, then it turns the form off. So then no students would be able to, access it at that point. But well, again, that's the whole point of throwing this out to the group. I'm sure somebody here may have a really brilliant take on this of a different way that this could be approached. All right. Um, Next up, can I make a bonus question in Google Forms? Um, yeah, the short answer is yes. You certainly can. Um, if you're using the built-in Google Forms features, I did. Well, it's been a while back now, 2 years ago. Geez, that's been a while back. I did a webinar on creating quizzes with Google Forms, and one of the things I get into there is credit questions. But really, what it comes down to, I'm guessing, Stephanie, you probably typed in this response here
Mhm.
about
Yeah.
making it ungraded.
Yeah, I did.
Yep, you're right. You can basically you can add a question that's worth 0 points, and then you can go in and give it a point give the student a point afterwards. So the idea is when you create the question and you set how many points it's worth, you would say it's a 0 point question, and then when you go to grade it later, you could award a point even though it's 1 out of 0. Google takes it. It works. Google Forms will accept that. And then that way you're giving them an extra point that they would not have otherwise. Looks like Flubaroo though as well, Stephanie. Did you put that in there that
Yeah,
it handles?
I haven't done that, but I found a resource that shows how to use Flubaroo. I haven't used Flubaroo in forever since Google
Right.
created the quiz feature.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
has been a couple years since I've used Flubaroo, but it did say that you could do an extra credit question.
You are correct. And Fluber is a great tool, and I can't say how much we appreciate that it was created many years ago. You're right with the ability to do quizzes and forms now. I think Fluper has probably fallen off a lot in use, but it still does have a couple extra cool features in there, and it has supported extra credit for a long time. Next, can you get the finger spelling font? Let me see. You can add it to Google Documents if I'm looking to add it to Google Suite. So finger spelling, I'm assuming, and I apologize if I don't totally know what whoops, I should have done font.
I think it's the
Yeah,
ASL.
so like this. So
Yeah.
yeah, so what we're talking about is a font that shows each letter being, shown by the hands. Well, the only thing I can say about that is if you go to fonts.google.com, you can get to all of the fonts that Google supports. If it's not there, no, I am not aware of any way to add any additional fonts. It really is whatever Google has available as web fonts. There are 973 web fonts at the moment. Um, and I don't know that finger spelling is one of them.
You can
Um,
what you could do is submit feedback to Google and they might add it.
yeah, I don't have time to scroll through all 900 right now, but I don't.
There was a search feature above, Eric.
Right, and that would be an option too. I don't know what they would call it, if they would call it the same thing
Yeah.
or not, but I don't remember. I don't remember seeing it. So if it has been added, it's not something that I am aware of. So I don't think so. But I think, Stephanie, your suggestion of submitting feedback saying, hey guys, this would be a great font to add would be really nice. Yeah. Could someone explain how to edit the closed captioning feature of videos you upload? I have not done that in a long time. I'm assuming you mean when you upload a video to YouTube and you add closed captioning to it. Looks like we have some resources here. Yeah, there we go. Add your own subtitles and closed captions. I have done this, but it's been years ago. Basically, you can go in and create your own subtitle closed captioning file that you then upload to YouTube, and then you can after you get it uploaded, you can connect it to the different, spots in the video to make sure that it's going along properly. Having said that, I'm going to take the easy way out here and say I have not done that in a long time, just because the automatic captioning has gotten so much better over the years. I know it's not perfect, but it's gotten so much better. I think the last time I did it, seriously, it's probably been 3 years ago that I went ahead and did one of my videos and uploaded a closed caption file specifically for that video. All right. And then the last question we have in here before we get into show and tell is, how do you set Google Sheets size and wrap text for all cells and not just by row? I'm assuming, let me open up Sheets here. I'm assuming what you're asking about there is like turning on the wrapping text for the cells, or the font size in there. I'm assuming what you mean is just how do you select everything? And for what I would suggest for that is, if you look in the very top left-hand corner, there's this box up here that doesn't have any kind of markings on it. It's between the A and the 1 up here in the top left. If you click this little box or this little button up here, that selects everything in your sheet. So rather than going in and grabbing a column or a row, if you click in this top left corner, it grabs everything in the entire sheet. And then once you've grabbed everything, now you can apply like wrapping, or you can apply font size or whatever to the entire sheet all at once. I'm guessing that's the question on
That's
that.
what I use to do that. So
Yeah.
I think that's the question.
All right. Well, guys, as always, thank you for your questions. And if we did not have good answers for some of these, we would love to get your suggestions. So please feel free to type in here or share any resources you have on these as well. All right. Well, at this point, we definitely want to give some time for Anne. So our special guest this month is Anne Radefeld, and we'll let Anne introduce herself a little bit. And then at that point, Anne, anything that you would like to share, we'd love to turn this over to you and give you a chance to share some show and tell resources or anything you'd like to talk about. And then, afterwards, Stephanie and I will probably pick a couple of these that we would like to mention. But again, we're not going to go through all of these. Just with whatever time's left over, we may pick and choose a few of these that we would like to take a look at as well. So, Anne, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Oh.
Hi, I'm
There's
Anne
Anne.
Radefeld.
Yay.
There, I wanted to make sure I was unmuted. I'm Anne Radefeld. I am the curriculum facilitator in the North Royalton City Schools. My background is high school French and German. I taught in the classroom for 9 years, and I have been in this position for 7 years. So I work with our teachers one-on-one. I do professional developments within our district, and I focus a lot on instructional technology, but I really pull in the curriculum everywhere into everything we're doing. I push out our curricular initiatives through instructional technology.
That is fantastic. And Ann and I, we've been friends for a while because
Yes, we have.
we're in the same neck of the woods here. So we run into each other quite a bit. And I can just say I am always so impressed by everything you have to share. And I've picked up so many great ideas from you over the years. So thank you for all you do.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that, especially coming from you.
Oh no, it's absolutely true because I know you and I do a session that deals with accessibility and accommodations and special needs and stuff, and I know I've picked up some great ideas from you on that.
Thank you.
So, what would you like to share with us today, Anne?
So I am actually going to share a passion of mine, which is connecting classrooms. And some of you listening may have heard me speak on this before. I have presented on it numerous times. I sometimes call it Let's Hang Out. Sometimes I call it Bringing the World to Your Classroom. But what I like to do is really connect classrooms or connect students to a world that they may not ever see. Just a little bit of background about me and why I like this is when I was a child, I actually lived overseas and I saw the world in such a different, so many different like perspectives. I traveled a lot. I was able to go to a school in England when I was 11. And I moved back to the United States when I was 16. So I have this international kind of experience behind me. I taught French, I taught German, and I think that all of our students really need to see the world outside of the four walls of their classroom. And sadly, many students will never get to see this. So what I like to do is sort of bring the world to them. One way that I have found works really well is through virtual field trips. And what I like to do with virtual field trips is really find some great areas, great sites that connect into the curriculum and set up the field trip with that organization and allow the students to learn about a different area of the world and maybe ask questions or, see pictures, see videos of somewhere outside of their hometown. A couple of virtual field trips that I've done that have been extremely successful. One is through the national park system. Denali National Parks, they offer science of sled dogs. And in third grade, one of the standards is science standards is to talk about adaptations. And our science teachers in North Royalton, they really talk a lot about the sled dogs. They read Balto. They, talk about this in the winter. Some of our teachers will follow the Iditarod, and science of sled dogs really ties in well with this. The park rangers at Denali are incredible with our third graders. They give them about a 45-minute program for free. They incorporate games and activities so that it's interactive, and it is just by far probably the best program I've ever seen. I like using the National Park Service because all of their programming is free. So if you have an idea of a park you'd like to visit and take your students to visit, you can go on the park's website. If you see they offer distance learning, it is always free. It is our tax dollars paying for it, as somebody told me. Another national park program that I did that was really great was actually about Thomas Edison, and it was at his facility, I guess you could call it, in Orange, New Jersey. And the park ranger there took an iPad and guided the students through Thomas Edison's factory and his library and where he slept. And I will tell you, the students were just astounded at what they saw. So virtual field trips and using the National Park Service is really an incredible, incredible resource. You might wonder how I came upon this initially, because I just didn't know. I just didn't know that the National Park Service offered this, but I actually found this through Skype for Education. And I know this is a Google group meeting, so I'm sorry, Eric and Stephanie, but
It's
I did
okay.
find this through Skype for Education. And Skype for Education, although the search is not very good, they have some ways to connect your classroom. So if you look on the site, and Eric, I think, or Stephanie is searching right now, that first link is virtual field trips. You can click on that virtual field trip, and you can go through here, and it says search by subject, age group, and location. The search is not quite there, but if you look at some of these, they are overseas, they are in the United States. I see here Wonders of Yellowstone. Yellowstone actually has a just Meet the Ranger, where you can ask questions to the Yellowstone Ranger that is there. It's really a great way to connect the curriculum. I actually used Skype for Education a few years ago, and a 7th grade teacher asked me to find virtual field trips in various biomes. And so we did, I think, 4 different field trips, one of which was actually an underwater lab off the coast of Florida. So pretty cool for those kids to see. One other location that I can point you to is cilc.org. And cilc.org, I do have a login for this site. You have to sign up for it, but the sign up is free. However, the programming inside is not all free. So we have just a small budget for distance learning inside of our district, but this is a way that you can search this Aztec Maya and more that you just scrolled up. You can see that's by Cleveland Museum of Art. That actually is a program that we did a few years ago. We got a grant through our educational foundation to do some distance learning, and one of our teachers did this program. The art museum programs are very well done as well. So those are bringing other places to your students, but I also like to bring other students to my students. And one way that I do this is through mystery hangouts or mystery location game, where I match up my class with a class throughout the United States or even somewhere else in the world. And they play a guessing game. And they ask yes and no questions back and forth until they figure out where the classes are located. And usually if we have time, we'll share some facts about our state or about our school. And the way that I find these groups or these other classrooms, I used to always find them on Google+. But as Eric said earlier in this recording today, or in this meeting today, Google+ has some limited capabilities now. But there are still some classrooms or still some teachers that are connected on Google+. There is one called Connected Classrooms, and that's probably my preferred one. The other one is called Hangouts in Education. And I'm on my side, I'm also going to Google+ so I can just take a quick look at it. So in Google+, these are different communities. So 2 of them, Google Hangouts in Education, and then Connected Classrooms for G Suite EDU. So Eric is pulling those up. What I do is I will go in and I will submit a post in one of these. Actually, I always cross post. You can actually see a post right here in Kristen Druin on the right-hand side of your screen, New Hampshire Google sign up, Google Hangout sign up. And she is looking for classrooms. So if you are interested, you know, it looks like her times are a little bit later though, January from 3:30 to 4:30. So I know that doesn't work in our district, but I always make sure I put my contact information. I put the dates I'm interested in and also the times I'm interested in. So, you know, this is how I search for other classrooms. I also now use Facebook groups. There are a lot of these Google Plus communities moved over or migrated to Facebook groups. So the same ones exist in Facebook, and I will post out in those locations as well. So we've got the virtual field trips, we've got the classrooms, and sometimes I like to bring just one expert to my classroom, and maybe somebody who is, you know, really well schooled in something. For this, I always tend to go to Skype a scientist, because many of my science teachers are looking for experts. And on Skype a Scientist, you can request the type of scientist that you would like to Skype with. So on this website, you can see, want to chat with a scientist, sign up here. It's towards the bottom of your screen there, Eric. Yep. And they send you to a Google form. And if you keep scrolling down, you will see, keep scrolling, they ask you what type of scientist you would like. And so what you can do is request that scientist. You will get contacted back by that scientist, but also Skype a Scientist will send you a message saying, you know, here is, or you've been matched with a scientist. You may contact the scientist, or you may wait for the scientist to contact you. So these are all live sessions. I have had some incredible scientists. I just did environmental science with one of our 7th grade teachers, and we found 4 different scientists to talk to her classes. And some were in, we had one who was in Italy, we had one who was in England, and then there were a few in the United States. So really, this is just a great opportunity to get our kids some access to the world around them. So that was a lot, Eric. I don't know if you have any questions or if you've seen any questions come up.
Well, so excellent. First of all, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I guess a few things that I would throw out as well in this. One would be if you're Ohio based, which I think most people here are. I know we've got some folks who have joined us from outside of Ohio, and we appreciate that. Everybody's welcome at these meetings. But Ohio does have a organization called Ohio DLA, the Ohio Distance Learning Association. And I'll pull that over here onto the screen as well. And this is something that districts around the state can join. And I might not remember exactly correctly. I know there used to be a cost, like a membership cost. And there's a part of me that thinks, and I'm so sorry if I'm saying this wrong, but I think it ended up getting covered this year through some funding so that anybody who wanted to could join. But this is a statewide organization that focuses on distance learning in the state of Ohio and being able to connect people with resources and programs and exactly the type of stuff that you're talking about there. So I think that would be good to get on people's radar. And we can throw some of these links into the agenda as well so that people can get to these. And then another one that is more my neck of the woods is Kent State. And what Kent State does is they bring in featured speakers each year to speak at the Kent State Stark branch, which actually is where, I mean, I work at the Stark County ESC, but we're on their property. We're in the same, so Stark State, Kent State, and the Stark County ESC, we all share the same physical grounds. And so they bring in speakers, like, nationally and worldwide recognized speakers each year to come and speak in person. But what they do is they say, well, since we're going to have you come in and speak in person, would you also be willing to do a video conference for schools earlier in the day? So like they're speaking that night at 6 or 7, but then at 1 in the afternoon, they'll do a, basically a Google Hangout or, whatever the case might be. And so I do have a link that I can put into, and I'll pull over the form for that. And again, it changes every year. At the moment, we're only down to one more this year. They've had loads of amazing speakers in the past years. What we're down to is Brian Terrell Clark is going to be speaking on March 10th, and his bio is here. This is something that is, open to all the schools around here to sign up if they want to participate in that. It is a first come, first serve thing, but Kent State has 3 to 4 of these every year. And like I said, I would be more than happy to copy and paste some of these into the agenda under the section here on, yeah, I'll grab that here. Let me grab the link for that and I'll put that in. And then people can kind of keep an eye on that in the future. If this one that's coming up doesn't fit for them right now, they can keep an eye on it each year because they'll add, new speakers every year to that.
Eric, as you're saying that, and I was glancing at the website as you were pulling it up there, and I saw, having a guest spot in there as part of the experience. You made me think of one other website that I've used a few times. I haven't used it recently, but it is set up the same way. It's called Exploring by the Seat, and it's mostly science content. And you can sign up for a guest spot on these Hangouts because they only have so many live, you can see the Hangout, but you can't always participate live with the group. So if you explore this a little bit, you'll see, like this conservation in action. They have people, like they have space explorers, they have marine biologists, but this is very science oriented. They do probably about 6 or 7 of the Hangouts per month. And so this would be a great spot to go to for some content and some virtual experiences.
That is excellent. And then I think, let me see if I can find, I'm going to do a quick search on my own here and hopefully I will find it. I had a pretty decent resource on mystery Hangouts. And so I'm going to look for that on my own separately here. And if I can find that, I will add that in as well, because I know you had mentioned doing mystery Hangouts. And I do recall having a decent resource on that, but I'll look off to the side here and see if I can find it. And if so, I'll link that in here as well. So.
Great. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. That was awesome, sharing all those resources. I think I got most of the links, but if I did leave any out, if you could add them to the list.
Okay, absolutely.
But I think that's very helpful. And I think a lot of people will want to try these different Hangouts, whether it's with the scientists or the mystery Hangouts. That's one of my favorites. The kids get so excited playing that game.
They do.
Well, excellent. And again, if you've got anything else you would like to share, feel free to continue to hang with us. All we're going to do in the time that we have left is pick a couple, just a few out of our show and tell of things that maybe jumped out to us that we wanted to mention to the group. And then we'll do one last scroll through the doc to make sure we haven't missed anything. And then be wrapping things up. So anything else to share at the moment, Anne?
Oh, I think she logged out.
Nope, she logged out. Okay, that's fine. No problem. We appreciated her being here with us. All right. Well, let's take a look then at we'll pick and choose a few things of our show and tell. I would say, and these are not in any particular order, one that I thought was at least worth taking a quick look at here was the slides randomizer post that Richard Byrne did recently. Richard does free tech for teachers. Many of you are probably familiar with his blog and the ideas he shares. He was talking recently about using the slide randomizer add-on for Google Slides. And what I liked about this post was he was talking about some creative ways to use it. Because a lot of times we think about, well, what can I do with slide randomizer? And I know that a lot of times we think about it being like for flashcards. And I actually have a post that I did on using a tool like that to learn your students at the start of the year. Basically create a slideshow, share it with all your kids, let every student go in and edit one slide where they put in their picture and some facts about themselves. And then I've got animations on it so that it would, reveal each piece as it goes. And then you could use like a slide randomizer tool to mix them up and then quiz yourself as you learn your kids. Like their picture would come up, and then as you click, it would then bring up, their name and things about them. Well, I thought he had a neat twist on this. He talked about, what about this? What about doing a whole bunch of slides that are actually in a sequence where maybe each slide is a picture of a portion of a, of a process. or telling a story or whatever it might be. But then use slides randomizer to shuffle the slides. And then the students would use, you know how in slides you can switch between the regular view and like the grid view where you see all the different slides. The kids would have to rearrange the slides then to put them back in the correct order to tell the story or to properly go through the process. And I thought, well, that was clever. That was, a neat twist on using a tool like that. And I thought that was one that would be fun to try out. All right. What's something you'd like to share, Stephanie?
So the one to make a podcast, it's by Google's keyword blog. I use Google's podcast when I listen to podcasts. I'm a huge podcast fan. I love listening to them.
Yeah.
And it just was really nice to have like an outline for students to think about for them to start podcasting. So it like kind of talked about define who your audience is for the podcast. And I think I know with going through the Google Innovator Academy, they're so focused on the user. So remembering who is your audience. And then it just kind of takes them through some other steps. So I just thought this was kind of a cool idea. Could be used with students because I know podcasting is really huge. And with audio coming into slides, you could maybe have a classroom podcast that would be published to a Google slide.
Love it. Very good. Excellent. Another one that I thought was worth mentioning was a feature built into the mobile version of Google Drive that I honestly didn't know was there. And that is the ability to scan documents with your phone. So if you have the Google Drive mobile app on your phone, you can go to the Google Drive app, click the little plus icon, like you want to add something, the little plus icon that you want to add something to your drive. And when you do, it opens up this option, which we normally are used to seeing, create a new folder, upload a file. But if it's on your phone, it has another button that says scan. And maybe it's been there forever and I didn't even realize it was there. I guess on iOS, it says use camera, and on Android, it says scan. But basically, you click the plus button, you click scan, and then you take a picture of the thing you want to scan. And after you take a picture, it allows you to use the cropping feature to clean it up and get it all squared up. And then if you need to add more pages, you can continue to add more, and it will just let you keep scanning in page after page. And you can basically scan in a document and it will save it as a PDF for you after it's done that. So I thought, oh, that's pretty slick. Didn't even know that was an option.
Yeah, I didn't know that was an option either. And I actually have special ed teachers that need that option. So I'm actually emailing our special ed lady right now about that.
That's great. And I do see we have a comment in the YouTube chat about the photo scan app as well. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the photo scan app is a specific mobile app that allows you to take a picture of pictures. So you say, well, why would you do that? Well, it actually has you take like 4 pictures of a picture, and then it uses some AI to blend it together to get the best version of that image, and to avoid, like, you know how you get reflections and stuff on a photo. So you don't get all that weird, like there's not going to be a light reflection on it, and then you can trim it up as well. So if you wanted to digitize some physical photos you had, the Google Photo Scan app is a good one for that. So thanks for mentioning that in the chat.
The next one I wanted to show was the slip and slide.
Okay.
I love the name of this extension, or this, I think it's an add-on.
Add-on, sure.
Yeah. And so a lot of times, you send out a Google slide to students, and then you later are like, oh, I forgot to add this one slide. And this is an extension add-on that you can do that with. So I just thought it was really cool.
Really?
Because so many times I'm like, oh, I don't want to share this yet, or I forgot to add this to their Google slide. And it's a very easy way to do that. I haven't done it yet, but I just found out about it. But the comments below, it says that they've worked and it seems to be working really well. So I can't wait to try this out when I get back from maternity leave.
Oh, wow. So basically, yeah. So you've already maybe assigned something to students, but now you want to go back in and add another slide into the presentations.
Yeah.
And it goes out and it puts it in there
Yeah,
after
and
the
that's
fact.
so often, like, you wanna do that, or you don't wanna share
I've got to test.
information with
I've got to
your.
try this out too. Yeah, I
I
need to
do need
take
to
that.
try it out, but I was waiting until I got back.
That looks like a really useful thing. So yes, as it integrates with Google Classroom, so
Mhm.
that's going to go to that folder where they're sitting at, and then it's going to go ahead and append or stick in that additional slide to each of the slideshows in that folder. Oh, I love it. Thanks for sharing that. Cool.
Yeah.
Um, and then let me see, what else was I going to mention here? Um, this next one, called Speech Texture, is one that, even though this is not a Google product, I want to mention it because it ties in with the idea of voice typing in Google Docs. And that is, when we use Google Docs, we can click on tools and voice typing, click on the microphone, and then we can just dictate right to our docs, which is a wonderful feature. Well, what if you had a situation where maybe the students don't have access to that? Now, why wouldn't they? Well, it could be, for example, maybe they're not able to sign into their Google account. Maybe they don't have a Google account. Maybe they're really young students, or maybe they are. Having I've seen some districts where unfortunately voice typing is turned off or is blocked because of some filtering. Well, speech texture is a basically very simple writing tool here. Whoops, didn't mean to click on the Grammarly thing there. Sorry about that. Let me try that again. Um, there we go. Here it comes. So if I click start dictating, what it does is it gives me basically a little mini version of like Google Docs. So it's not as fancy as Google Docs. It just has some basic formatting, but it does have the ability to come in here and click start. And let's see if I can get that to work. This is just a test. And there we go. And so it works very much like what we do in Google Docs, but there's no login required. You don't have to log in. You can just go to the site, start talking, it'll type up whatever you say. And then of course you could copy and paste this into something else later if you needed. So as much as I will probably always recommend voice typing in Docs, I'm always glad to have an alternative. If somebody says, yeah, but we can't do that because, it's nice to have another option in your pocket. And so this is one to consider. All right. Anything else you'd like to mention, Stephanie?
I was going to bring up the audio and slides, and you could change the image, which I just found out about on Twitter through this GIF that Mike showed. So you know how it has like the speaker
Yeah.
option. Instead of having that speaker, you can actually change this to an image. So you don't have that little microphone looking thing. You just go to replace image, and then you can search
Oh my
whatever you
goodness.
want to do, and it will change it to that image, which I thought was really cool. And I had no idea you could do that.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I thought it would help students with their presentations if they didn't want that little speaker
Oh my
in the
God.
corner. So I thought that was really cool, and it was a quick, easy way to change it.
That is so awesome. So yeah, I had done, a lot of that audio and slides back when it first came out, and I did a sample slideshow of long and short vowel sounds. And what
Mhm.
I had to do was I added the audio in, and then I added the clip art in separately, and then I put the little audio button on top of the clip art, and I used the grouping feature to stick it to it. But so technically, I could just change the image to be the clip art. I wouldn't have needed the separate, audio button from the image, and they could just click right on it. Oh, that's so cool. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. That is fantastic. I
so I thought that was
absolutely
really
love
cool.
that. Oh my gosh. Learn something new every day. That is the coolest thing. And yeah, it just makes it so much easier just to click right on the picture and
Yeah,
have it
and
do it. Oh,
Dan just said that's perfect for ELS, so English
yeah.
learners, and then it's
Yes.
good for foreign language too. So
Oh gosh. Well, thanks, Mike. That is awesome. Mike shares so many good things. All right. Well, the last one I was going to mention out of this, and again, there's so many great things. Please check out all of these. Um, I have had some questions recently from folks about the priority page in Google Drive. Done a few trainings recently that involved some Google Drive overview things, and noticed that the priority page was a little bit of a pain point for some people, because maybe they were just misunderstanding, what it is. That when you go to Google Drive, at the top of Google Drive, you do get this little ribbon of priority. If you click on the priority page, you get this ribbon of these, items that Google is suggesting, saying, "Hey, these may be some files we think you might want to open, like you seem to open them a lot, or every beginning of the month you seem to pull open this log file, so we're going to pull it up here for you." And I had seen some people getting a little confused by that, like they weren't sure, are those files actually there in the priority page, or are they somewhere else in your drive and it's just pulling them together, which is the case. They are somewhere else in your drive. It's just bringing them into one place for you. And so I was happy that Jeremy Badinger went ahead and put together a blog post just to give a nice overview of, okay, this is what the priority page is all about. If you go here, you're going to see some commonly accessed files, and then the idea of creating workspaces. If you want to have some files that you pull together for a project you're working on, you can create that workspace and then drop things into it. This is not a new thing. We've had priority page for a while now, but I'm noticing some folks are finally kind of seeing it and getting maybe a little confused by it, now that they're seeing it pop up. And so I appreciated Jeremy putting together a very clear blog post on how that works. Anything else you'd like to add, Stephanie?
I just wanted to show the red ball challenge. So one of my
Sure.
teachers, she posted this on Twitter. And I thought it was really cool. The students are working together and you can see the ball traveling through the Chromebooks to the other Chromebook. And then it goes to the final Chromebook. And so they had to work together to create this animation, which I
Yeah.
thought was really cool. And she teaches technology. So I was like, what a great activity. If you're in school tomorrow, right before Thanksgiving break, this could be a fun challenge for kids. And I've never heard of the red ball challenge. So I don't know if this is a thing,
Yeah.
but I just thought
I
it was really cool.
Right. So I first heard about it a couple, maybe 2 years ago, because I did a lot of training on stop motion animation using Google Slides, but I didn't know about the Red Ball Challenge. So I would go and I would do these trainings of how to use Google Slides and make stop motion animation. Somebody in one of my sessions said, "Hey, have you heard of the Red Ball Challenge?" I said, "Nope." And so we Googled it right on the spot and I added it to my agenda. So now that shows up anytime I do a training on stop motion animation, because that's basically what they're doing, is they're playing Google Slides, and the Google slideshow is playing really fast and it's animating this red ball. But what they're doing is taking it a step further. They're having multiple Chromebooks with slideshows, so that when the slideshows play, Chromebook number 2 has, like, a whole bunch of blank slides until it gets to slide 100, and then suddenly the ball appears. And as long as they hit play at the same time on each of these, they'll be in sync in that sense, so it looks like the ball is crossing over. But what a great way to learn about slides, stop motion animation, but also working together. Oh, that's great. Well, very, very good. Well, all of that I think is wonderful. And even still, we have not covered all of the things in this document. So I would encourage you, if there is something we did not get into here today, please do click the links, explore some more. There's probably a lot of hidden gems that we did not get a chance to dive into. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to take a quick look to make sure that there aren't any questions or comments or anything else that we have missed as I'm
There was
scrolling.
one by Star. Her
Okay.
question about, I know you showed on the Google Sheet how to resize and wrap text and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But she said her question was more when users submit a Google form, which I have that
Okay.
issue too. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you might just have to wait until everybody's submitted and then do that trick.
Right. So basically,
Um,
here's what's happening. Yeah, good question. So when you submit a Google form, it does not put the data on the next available blank row. it actually inserts a new row into the spreadsheet. So when the Google form is submitted, an entire brand new row gets created at that time. And that would probably make sense as to why you're not seeing the same formatting applied to it as that comes in. I would want to poke a stick at that and see if there's a way to trick it and work around it. But Stephanie, your suggestion, yeah, probably makes sense that you may have to every now and then go in and select all of the sheet and then reapply some of that formatting. But that's why it's happening. It's not that the form is somehow breaking the sheet. It's just that it's actually inserting an entirely new row every time you submit the form. All right. Well, as we wrap up here, we do want to give a few last reminders. One is, please do fill out the sign-in sheet if you did not get a chance to do that. On the second page of the agenda, there's a spot called Important Links. Highlighted in green, you will see a sign-in form. This sign-in form allows you to record your attendance at the meeting today so that I can send you a certificate of attendance for being here. And if you did not attend live, that's okay. If you watch this later on as a video, that's perfectly fine too. We appreciate you watching, whether it's live or after the fact. And I will then send out certificates of attendance in the future on that. And then in addition to that, we want to remind you that you can always stay plugged in between our meetings by being a member of our email distribution group. So under the updates section, there is the GEG Ohio Google group that you can join. And that way you can send questions, or if you have resources to share and need to connect in between our meetings, that's a great way to stay in touch with everybody. Our next meeting won't be till January. We are taking a break in December for the holidays, but we'll roll all the new updates into our January meeting. As always, you can go to bit.ly/GEG Ohio to get to all of the resources and see the dates and times, access the agendas and the links there as well. Anything else you would like to add as we wrap up here today, Stephanie?
Again, everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you for also adding to the Google Doc. It does help when the community adds and suggests other ideas and comments on the
Yes.
chat. I appreciate all that. And then also just a reminder that the podcast, so please share that the podcast will be out too, and join us on Twitter.
Absolutely. Appreciate Stephanie doing that with the podcast. So the audio from this does get pulled out, and Stephanie has, through Anchor, has set up a podcast, which is another great way to be able to listen to all the content that we have shared. Well, guys, thanks again so very much for being here today. It's always a pleasure. We wish you the best with the upcoming holidays and look forward to seeing you at conferences in person and back virtually again in January. Thanks so much. Take care and see you guys later.